now we have the first stage. We have heavy American involvement, and the hope is that if that keeps up, then phase 2 will come and phase 3 will come. But still, Palestinians have a lot of questions, and they need to hear from Donald Trump on how he intends to make sure that stopping the bombing would translate to peace for them, because that would also necessarily entail ending the occupation, withdrawing Israeli troops from Gaza, Palestinians governing themselves instead of being overseen by a board of international officials, including someone like Tony Blair, by remote control, if you will, from afar, having a very little knowledge of things on the ground. So all those questions are looming large, really, as we see these pictures and these developments happening on the ground.
Let's get it back to Khan Yunus and Hind Khudri now. And Hind, we've got a Red Cross.
I don't want to hear no crying, niggas. We're back on live on all the platforms. Okay. For all you guys that are crying, I'm back up on YouTube, Rumble, and everything else. Didn't even announce it, just doing it because we're covering this thing, and it's very important that we cover this thing on all the platforms, get as many eyeballs on here as possible. Then we can go back to party after and party over there.
Hospital. Everyone is on standby.
Shout out to Robin Colby with the 5 gifted. Appreciate you, my friend. Yeah, we're back on here, man. We grinding.
Police officers, everyone is waiting and anticipating when the Palestinian prisoners are going to be released.
I'll be honest with you guys, I'm not going to be on here for long, though. So all you guys that are watching on YouTube, Rumble, enjoy. I am going to switch back to party here very soon. But yeah.
That are going to be released today after days and months and years of...
OSS niggas, you guys are good. OSS party niggas, you guys don't got nothing to worry about. You guys got the full stream.
For thousands of Palestinians, doctors are saying that they will try to offer the Palestinian prisoners with everything they need, despite the fact that we know that Gaza is going through a very harsh situation, especially the health sector, where most of the medical supplies are not available, and everyone's trying to make safe access and free access for the Palestinian prisoners to make it to the hospital. And also the families are waiting with their smiles, with their tears, and they know that this day may be a long day because Palestinian prisoners are always delayed, they're always late, but they say that they're willing to wait as much as they can because they can't wait, and they do not believe that this day is coming.
Get it back to Noor Ode in Amman now. And we've got the crowds waiting, anticipating in Hostages Square in Tel Aviv. You know, we've been here before, haven't we?
We have, and look, the families of Israeli hostages have continuously accused the Israeli Prime Minister of being the one behind derailing all other deals and all other possible deals that were on the table. Many of them say that this very deal could have happened a year ago. So there is a lot of pent-up emotions.
Could have happened 2 years ago. Could have happened October 10th.
And a lot to come.
2023, 3 days after the hostages were gone, 2 days after they could have had this.
That there are those 20 who are living, but several Israeli captives will be returned in coffins, many of them killed during the war because of Israeli military action. And so there's a lot to be said once it's all said and done. And the thanks that we've seen over the past few days have been to Donald Trump, not to the Israeli Prime Minister. That is very telling, and it will probably inform how things develop politically, at the very least, for Benjamin Netanyahu in the coming days and weeks. That's why also there is fear that this could all fall apart.
Chad's a big 987. Appreciate you with the 5 gifted.
Once the captives are released and Benjamin Netanyahu has to recover politically, at least as far as his base is concerned.
Thank you so much, Noor Ode, there in Amman. And of course, we had also heard from Hind Khudri there in Khan Yunus. Let's get to New York now. Diplomatic editor James Bays is there for us live. And James, Air Force One is, I believe, due to land in about an hour. So what's the program looking like?
Well, I think this is, I think, all choreographed around Trump's arrival. And I think it's worth saying, you said a moment ago that we've been here before. Yes, we have been here before, but this is all of the Israeli captives being released. It is a very large number of Palestinian prisoners. In the past, when we've seen these sort of releases, it's been a very long, drawn-out process. This is all supposed to be happening or have happened by the time President Trump arrives in Tel Aviv. And I can tell you, according to the White House schedule for Air Force One, he is due to land in Tel Aviv in 1 hour and 10 minutes. So this all needs to be compressed in a very short period of time. And these sort of handovers are always fragile and delicate moments where things can go wrong. It is, I think, even though it's been very carefully planned, I think there still will be some nervousness among all of the mediating countries, particularly Qatar, Egypt and the US, that this is going to go according to plan, because it is part of this Trump schedule. He's going to go after he lands in Tel Aviv. He's going to go to the Knesset and make what we think will be some sort of victory speech of an achievement of this peace deal that he will claim credit for. So if there are any last-minute hitches, this is somewhat problematic and high stakes.
Yeah, he's been also speaking on Air Force One, has he, en route?
Yeah, he's been speaking on Air Force One en route here to reporters, saying, again, what a good deal he says this is, saying it's a good deal for every single country that has been involved in this, and certainly a good deal for the people of Gaza and the people of Israel. I think the questions many in the international community have is what happens after this period of these releases that we expect to see in the next hour or hours. What happens then about the longer term parts of his 20-point plan? Because there, I think there are no details, as Noor was saying earlier on. This is something that the negotiators, the mediators, have not pinned down the details, because they were worried that this could all fall apart if they got stuck on some of those details of the later part of this. And that, I think, is where it is problematic. It's worth telling you that President Trump is in the region, in Israel and Egypt, for just under 8 hours. Just 4 hours of that will be in Israel, and about 3 hours will be in Egypt for that summit that's taking place in Egypt. It means that probably at the summit itself, meeting with the other world leaders, he's only going to be there for 2 hours, meeting with those.
He's coming back to give Charlie Kirk the Medal of Honor, if I'm not mistaken.
At a summit, but I'm not sure how much substantive conversations these leaders will have with President Trump, and whether any of that detail that is lacking can be negotiated in that time.
James, thank you. James Bays there for us in New York. Now, Xavier Abu Eid is a political analyst and former communications director for the Palestine Liberation Organization. He joins us from Amman. I've just got to also say to the viewers that these are images that we're getting on our screen from Khan Yunus. At the moment, Hamas' armed wing reportedly is saying that it's fully committed to the ceasefire deal as long as Israel adheres to its side of the bargain, as it were, here as well. But let's get Xavier's views on all this. And what are you making of today's events as they unfold?
Thank you, Rashad. I think it's very important to understand that this ceremony could be very important for many people. Of course, there will be thousands of families in Palestine that are waiting for their relatives. But I think also it is leaving many questions. And the questions are basically dealt with in the fact that we don't know what's going to happen next. We know that President Trump was very keen to get to the point where we are now. But eventually, if the talk for a comprehensive peace is real, we need to include several elements that are not part, neither of this initiative nor from his foreign policy. So far, the U.S. has not been able to utter the term two-state solution, nor ending the Israeli occupation. And therefore, there are so many questions that are left open after this ceremony that, once again, it's going to be very important for many Palestinians, also for Israelis. But also, I would like to add just one point. When the Israeli captives are back to their homes, as society for Israel, it's going to be over. But when the Palestinian prisoners are back, not all Palestinian prisoners, just a minority of those who are in Israeli jails, you have to start thinking of reconstruction and, of course, in the occupied West Bank of ending the occupation. So therefore, there are two different processes here that cannot be compared.
Now, Xavier, one of the people missing off the list of Palestinian prisoners to be released was, of course, Marwan Barghouti's name, who's seen as a big unifier. Does that also perhaps send off some alarm bells as to whether Israel is truly committed to peace in the future, because he's seen as a unifier of all the Palestinians?
That's true, and I think Marwan Barghouti has been consistently at the top of all Palestinian surveys when it comes to public opinion, something that's really surprising for many, as far as he has not been able to rally in freedom over the past 2 decades. I think it's very important to understand that for Benjamin Netanyahu, it has been never about having a peace agreement. Many people argue that Marwan Barghouti could be a very solid Palestinian leader that could push for a more inclusive approach on the Palestinian side, a more unifying approach from the perspective of the Palestinian leadership that would, of course, provide more legitimacy to the steps that the Palestinian leadership would like to take. I don't think Netanyahu is interested in that. Netanyahu is someone who invested heavily on Palestinian division, not just between Fatah and Hamas, but also from within. And I think it's important always to remember the role that Benjamin Netanyahu himself had in the rule that Hamas had for several years in Gaza. Now, it's also important to understand that for many Palestinians, this deal was the last chance for Marwan Barghouti and other leaders to leave the prison. So many people are actually very hopeless about the prospects for the future.
Xavier, looking ahead, one of the statements that's coming out was Hamas's armed wing saying that it is committed to the ceasefire agreement as long as the timeline, even if this timeline is long, as Israel adheres to their side of the deal here. This is it, isn't it? It's that side of the deal that people are concerned about. Ultimately also, and this is the armed wing talking, they have to disarm. And that's something that actually Hamas has been quite reluctant and vague about.
Rashad, I think one of the most important points here is that you cannot separate the processes. You have a political process, you have a security process, and you should have also a legal process. Those tracks should go side by side. So you cannot expect, for example, for Hamas to announce that they are going to disarm if there are not assurances that the political track is going to keep moving ahead.
And that's one of the big things is the disarmament. That's been one of the biggest contentions, actually, that Hamas has still not agreed to, by the way, chat.
That it's not about Hamas itself, it's about any single agreement that at least I have studied in my life that deals with ceasefire or disarmament of any group. The assurances are not there. What we have is a document with 20 points that are very vague so far, that has some points that can be implemented now, some in the future, but still they miss key points, like, for example, talking about the Palestinian right to self-determination, the Palestinian right to statehood. They actually put more conditions on Palestinian statehood and refer to it as an aspiration.
Yeah, and the thing is that they don't care about a Palestinian statehood. They're never going to allow it to happen. Netanyahu himself said this.
Xavier Abu Eid is a political analyst and former communications director for the Palestine Liberation Organization. Thank you very much indeed. Now, Menachem Klein is Professor Emeritus of Political Science at Bar Ilan University, and he joins us from West Jerusalem. What do you make of today's events thus far here, Menachem?
Good morning. The Israeli public is happy with the return of the hostages and prepared to mourn when the bodies and the coffins of the dead hostages will come back. And then Israeli society will start its long journey from October 7, where we now live, to the present. Actually, Netanyahu started his winning narrative building. He started build his narrative of achieving a victory, of changing the Middle East. And we can see what is his plan. His plan is to win the next elections.
Well, that's one thing, but there's another. You can see the scars of this conflict, well, in Gaza City and all over the Gaza Strip with the amount of destruction. But there's scars in Israeli society which aren't visible, but are definitely things which will have to really be dealt with.
Definitely. Israel failed to achieve its war goals. This is clear, and it is in the back mind of many Israelis. But they don't express it. Therefore, Netanyahu and his followers started building a counter narrative to what is in the most of Israelis feel and think. The destruction in Gaza is massive, and the international public opinion and international media will expose it even more so in the near future. This helped Israel to build the victory narrative, but it can cover up the feeling that there is a huge distance between what Netanyahu promised to achieve and what he actually achieved. But the future, as my previous colleague said, the future is unknown. The agreement achieved by Trump and Qatar and Egypt is an Oslo-style agreement. This is the Oslo agreement of Netanyahu and Hamas, the two parties that oppose strongly and violently the Oslo agreement of Rabin and Arafat. Now, history brought them to sign an agreement that is very much in the same lines of the Oslo 93 agreement.
Very similar to the Oslo agreement, and the Oslo agreement was bullshit.
So much is unknown and open to further negotiations and open for spoilers to sabotage the process. The United States is not committed to a Palestinian state. The United States put it in the far, far future under the pressure of Qatar, Egypt, and Turkey. But it's unclear whether they will achieve this and how long it will take.
Professor, would you trust Benjamin Netanyahu?
I assume that Trump comes in order to help Netanyahu. He will praise Netanyahu's leadership in order to help Netanyahu keep his coalition united and not fell apart his coalition. This is the one goal. The second is, of course, to praise himself. I trust Trump to praise his efforts and the ending the war. Netanyahu does not want and refuse to accept the agreement that states end of the war. He also did not brought it to vote in the cabinet meeting, the end of the war.
Because he would lose all the support if he did that. Nobody in the Likud party wants the war to end.
Only the prisoners exchange. That's it. It's very clear. And I assume that Netanyahu promised his coalition partners to violate the process. And the first option he will get.
So, Professor, the answer would be no to that, given what you just said. The next part is, well, what is Donald Trump's resolve looking like in all this, in your view?
In my view, President Trump has a very short patience to details. He will move ahead and leave it to his assistants. The key question is whether his assistants, Witkoff, Gerald Kushner, and others will keep in line and supervise the implementation of the agreement and negotiate strongly with Israel, impose on Israel to make concessions regarding the next stages. But more so, civil societies are responsible for the future. Without the civil societies and media pressure on the politicians, no politician in West Europe or United States will move ahead towards imposing this agreement on Netanyahu. Much depends on public opinion and media pressure on political establishments. This is as society members, civil society members, this is our responsibility.
Menachem Klein, thank you very much indeed for joining us, Professor Emeritus of Political Science at Bar Ilan University, talking to us from West Jerusalem.
Thank you.
The next stage of Donald Trump's ceasefire plan for Gaza is starting to happen. The release of Israeli captives in Gaza in exchange for Palestinian prisoners. So far, the Red Cross says it's received 7 captives, that's 7, who are being held in northern Gaza. Now, these and what you're looking at are the preparations in southern Gaza's Khan Yunus. 20 Israelis who are captives are expected to be handed over in the coming hours, as well as nearly 2,000 Palestinian prisoners. We had just a short while ago an Israeli helicopter landing at the southern town of Riem, which is near the eastern border of the Gaza Strip. It is preparing to pick up these captives after they've been handed over to the Red Cross. And we know at the moment that, or reportedly, that 7 have been taken into the charge of the International Committee for the Red Cross. Let's go to Hostages Square. It's 8:32 in the morning there in Tel Aviv. Large crowds here, bated breath. These include families of the Israeli captives. They've been holding a vigil through the night and awaiting news of the release of their loved ones. And this is the view at Ofer prison in the occupied West Bank, and that's where many of the Palestinian prisoners will be released by Israel.
And that's one of the worst prisons in Israel, by the way, where they grape the prisoners, etc. This probably, is it SDE Teriman or Teneman jail?
As we have a look,
if it is, that's one of the worst ones
now, and have sentences mostly for attacks or alleged involvement in violence against Israelis. 135 of them will be deported to the west, to the Gaza Strip, or indeed exiled abroad as well. 100 are expected to be sent to the occupied West Bank. Now, 15 are set to be released in East Jerusalem. Now, ahead of the exchange of prisoners, we have them being transported to Ofer prison, as we just saw, near Ramallah, and Ketziot prison in the Negev desert. All living captives and bodies of dead Israeli captives held in Gaza are being released in exchange for these Palestinian prisoners. Just to reiterate on this, 20 Israeli men are expected to be handed over to the Red Cross. They've spent 2 years in Gaza since October the 7th, 2023, when Hamas and its allied fighters took captive 251 Israelis and foreign nationals during their attack. Now, every week, their families have gathered in Tel Aviv, protesting against Israel's war, calling for a ceasefire and the release of their relatives. Many accuse Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of blocking a deal for a ceasefire and return of those captives for his own political gain.
Yeah, that's a fact.
Well, Noura, there is following developments in Israel from Amman. She's there because the Israeli government has banned Al Jazeera from reporting inside of Israel or indeed from the occupied West Bank. We have our diplomatic editor, James Bays.
Always make sure to say that.
But let's get to the scene of the action. In Khan Yunus in central Gaza, we have Hind Khudri. Hind, what's going on there at the moment? It seems almost palpable that this release is going to be imminent.
Well, everyone's preparing, everyone's anticipating. I'm currently standing in front of the medical checkpoint where the Palestinian prisoners are going to be transferred first as they arrive to the Gaza Strip. Now, what we know so far is the Red Cross is going to be doing all the logistics. They're going to be transferring the Palestinian prisoners. They're going to be first transferred to this medical checkpoint here in Khan Yunus and Al-Nasser Hospital. This has been all established and set up for this day exactly. So doctors, nurses are saying that they are waiting for the Palestinian prisoners. They will first do a medical checkup on them, and then they're going to be welcomed by thousands of Palestinians who are waiting for them in front of the medical checkup point. Now, every time Palestinian prisoners are freed, they are become exhausted, drained, thirsty, hungry, and very, very mentally, their health is very, very ill, and they're also mentally exhausted from everything they went through during their detention. Now, what we know is there are at least 1,700 Palestinians that are going to be freed today, and these were the Palestinians that were either arrested or missing since the 7th of October 2023. Families are starting to arrive. Everyone's anticipating, and everyone is happy that today is going to be a day where Palestinians are going to reunite with their families, a day that Palestinian families have been waiting for so long. But they're expecting a delay, and they are expecting that they're going to be released in late hours, and this is because this happens every single time where families wait for so long for this moment.
Hind, hold that thought. I'm going to get it to Aman and Noor Odeid there. And Noor, just getting reports from the Reuters news agency that all 1,966 Palestinian detainees slated for expected release have boarded buses at Israeli prisons. This is according to the Reuters news agency. We also have 7 hostages, or should I say 7 captives, which have been apparently put into the custody of the International Red Cross. What more do we have? Because there's major anticipation in all this, with crowds gathering in Hostage Square in Tel Aviv at the moment.
Yeah, there are quite a few updates. Let's start with the Israeli captives. They are now in the custody of the Israeli army. And that's why you see the Palestinian prisoners, detainees, and the disappeared now in buses. We've also heard from the International Committee of the Red Cross saying that we have started a multi-phase operation to facilitate the release and transfer of hostages and detainees as part of a ceasefire agreement between Israel and Hamas. The Red Cross has also entered Aufar military prison to transport a sick Palestinian prisoner out, separate from the buses. Apparently, he will need medical evacuation. We also are hearing from the families of Palestinian prisoners and detainees. 12 of them were expecting their loved ones to be released to their homes in the occupied West Bank, only to learn in the past hour that their sons will be exiled. They will not be going to the occupied West Bank. Those who already knew of the exile of their sons tried to leave the occupied West Bank yesterday, and they were denied by the Israeli authorities. So there is a lot of emotions right now, and emotions are going really high. In addition to all that uncertainty and those last-minute changes, you have the situation
Israelis
in
being
Gaza.
Israelis.
Israel hasn't clarified when the 1,700 Palestinians will be released to Gaza, but the list has finally been released, and they are not a list of all the Palestinians disappeared from Gaza. So while 1,700 families will be celebrating, others still have questions about the whereabouts and fate of their loved ones.
Yeah, let's get it back to Khan Yunus and the Nasser hospital here, because that's where I believe Hind, these Palestinian prisoners will arrive. What happens then? Do they get processed? What is the deal?
Now, we have an update. The Red Cross teams, a medical team and a protection team, just arrived to a Nasser hospital, and they're now inside this department waiting for the Palestinian prisoners. Now, we know that the Red Cross is going to be transferring the Palestinian prisoners to here, to Khan Yunus. All of them are going to be transferred to this medical point. They're going to receive medical checkups. Everything is going to be checked, and then they are going to attend a ceremony where thousands of Palestinian families are waiting for their beloved ones. Now, what we need to know is most of the families do not know who's coming, who's being released, who's going to stay in Israeli prisons, what's going to happen. So most of the Palestinian prisoners' whereabouts are unknown for their...
So they don't have an idea.
About months where they have been not able to reach their family members. They do not know where they are, and some of them do not even know where they were detained or arrested by the Israeli forces. Now, what's going to happen next? Definitely Palestinians.
Now, here's the difference. The Israelis have hostages, but they don't have to fucking return them.
For the first time, but also let me highlight the fact that these Palestinians were arrested after October 7. The amount of destruction that is in the streets, the amount of destruction everywhere across the Gaza Strip is unbearable. And it's going to be very hard for these Palestinian prisoners to adjust the fact of how the Israeli forces have completely destroyed Gaza. It's going to be very hard for them to process of how Gaza has turned to a wasteland, and there's going to be a lot of emotional moments. Most of those Palestinian prisoners have their family members also killed. Some won't even find any family members left, and these are the stories behind what's going to happen today. Yes, it's a happy day, it's a day of freedom, but every single Palestinian prisoners have a heartbreaking stories, and we're going to be following for sure some of these Palestinian prisoners and telling you their stories.
All right, now to keep it fair, let's go ahead and look at Israeli TV. Okay.
So get from Khan Yunus back to Amman and Noura. The momentum in all this is building up very.
These victories have happened without him. Now,
I keep it fair, guys. We're going to look at both. Now we're going to look at Israeli TV.
this kind of, I would say, like a schizophrenic behavior because Qatar, all of these countries that are meeting in Egypt, they're mostly enemies of Israel, including those that have peace treaties with Israel, such as Egypt. Sisi, this very recently, a couple of weeks ago, Israel is its sworn enemy. We have a peace treaty with Egypt. Then there's Turkey. Erdogan calls us, Nazis, calls Prime Minister Netanyahu. What I'm saying is Erdogan is also a sworn enemy. We have a whole group meeting in a summit today.
Yeah, because you guys occupy Palestinians illegally, steal their land. This is why the Muslim world don't like you. What the fuck?
Give them enough incentive to make this happen. And that's why I think it's good that Israel is not participating in that summit. Because what he's doing is saying this has nothing to do with Israel. This is in America's interest. And so I'm glad that Israel is not participating. As for Qatar...
That's not me, guys. That's their connection. These, them boys, their connection sucks.
Israel learned from October 7th, now our power and always be prepared to go to war.
Absolutely. Now, we're getting news that the released hostages, the 7 released hostages, are making their way back into Israel, and they are going to be going to Ichilov Hospital. Omri Meiran and Matan Engest will be sent to Ichilov Hospital. Bellinson, we see Eitan Mor, Alon Ohel, and Guy Gilboa Dalal will be sent to Bellinson. And at Sheba Tel HaShomer, Gali and Ziv Berman will be going there. So I want to see if we have India Naftali. She's at Sheba Tel HaShomer Hospital, waiting the hostages, waiting arrival. India, what can you tell us?
Lidar, I am standing in front of the helicopter pad where the hostages, 10 of them, will be arriving here behind me. Now, I want to read you the names of the 10 hostages that will be coming here today. That will be Gali Berman, Ziv Berman, Ariel Cunyo, David Cunyo, Alkana Bohbot, Yosef Ohana, Maxim Harkin, Segev Kalfon, Val Kaipelstein, and Bruskav Mum. So I want to say that there's a lot of anticipation here at the hospital. The doctors are out waiting. There are signs and balloons out for them, welcoming them. Like we heard, that the 7 hostages that have been released are in stable condition as much as they can be. So they will not be immediately escorted to a hospital, but they will be taken.
Stable condition because Hamas treats their prisoners better than the Israelis treat their prisoners. That's a fact. The Israelis treat the Palestinians way worse than Hamas treats the Israelis. The Israelis come back, they're not fucked up, they're not skinny, they're not gaunt. Palestinians come back, they're fucking almost dead.
Is captivity. So that will be something immediately treated. Here at Sheba Hospital, famously, hostages such as Noah Al-Gamani came here for treatments after being released. Also, famously, Emily Damari came here and had her surgery. She was shot in the hand and 2 fingers were taken off, and due to complications of not being treated for 2 years. To have a surgery. There's also concerns of, pre-existing conditions hostages have had. For example, former hostage Omer Shemtov, he survived captivity with celiac disease. So the hospital says that they're preparing for every circumstance. They're even willing and ready to treat the families. And we are hoping, and seems to be that we will see them within the next coming hours.
All right, India, so we are all eagerly awaiting the return of the hostages. Thank you so much for the update, and we'll check back in with you later today. So, Ruti, I want to now go now back to Hostages Square, where we have Emily Schrader and Kalev Ben David. Emily, what can you tell us?
For the next batch of releases. As India mentioned earlier, it is great to see these hostages from what we know.
All right, let me read the chat real quick. All right, Infinite Slick. Literally no black people play RuneScape. That's a fact. Knox says, I'm slightly younger than you, but I played Halo 2 religiously, super balance and all. Fair. Tech Doc, respect, man. You're still streaming. You know it. Jimmy Too Smart says, this might seem naive, but why does Israel have the U.S. by the balls? Because they control every infrastructure in America. That's why. Let's see here. Jerome, hey, Martin, just jumped in the stream. Why is Trump there for this? Necessary? What's your take? He wants to get credit for it. Hamas won a war they probably didn't know they were fighting. The great noticing, I don't support terrorist deaths and destruction, but I support anyone who fights against evil. I see what you're saying. Awaring America to Israel's evils? Fair enough.
You know, so far, the hospitals that they were sent to indicates that they are somewhat, relatively, given the situation, healthy. They are able to walk. That means there's not an emergency situation.
And we should note some of these hostages, there were very specific health concerns. Matan Angeris, we all know, pulled from a tank unconscious, for example, someone who was a lot of concern about. So even if
transferred into the hands of the IDF, Guy Gilboa Dalal being one of them.
So we about Gali and Ziv.
This guy's a loser. Yosef Haddad, this guy's like the chief propagandist for Israel. He's an Arab Israeli.
Was tortured psychologically when they forced him to watch the release of other hostages, literally when he was in a car next to the Red Cross car. So it's really just, again, we're speaking about that the hostages are okay. The hostages are not okay. Psychologically. The hostages are far from being okay, even physically. Yes.
They're in better condition than the Palestinians. That's a fact.
That physically they've been tortured. We know that mentally they've been tortured. And hopefully that we're hearing that we might sing. Yeah, we might sing. So yeah, I don't know. Hopefully we're seeing maybe the hostages. But I will continue and add that as for Omri, we need to remember the pictures from yesterday when his 2 daughters.
Is he Druze or Bedouin? I don't know. Let me look.
Come back. And don't forget that when they kidnapped Omri, they kidnapped him live. They broadcasted live on Facebook. And Eitan Mor, he's an exceptional story, because Eitan was working as a bodyguard in the Nova Party.
Sorry, I just want to interrupt you because we did get an update. The cheers that you're hearing right now from the hostage square are as a result of the force that the hostages are now in Israeli territory for the first time since October 7th.
Minutes will be in the right. It's only a few minutes from the Gaza border Ra'im base. So
it doesn't say what kind of Arab he is.
Yes, that's when the first time we've seen actual pictures of them when they arrived in Ra'im base.
Amazing moments here in Hostage Square in Tel Aviv.
Now, the reason why it's not videotaped, probably, guys, is because there were strict rules that Hamas cannot make it a video spectacle like they did before in other hostage releases, which I'll show you guys an example of what I mean by this.
As a bodyguard, he had the opportunity to run. He had the opportunity to actually save himself. He decided to stay. He under fire, saving Israelis. He made sure that wounded arrived to a safe place and to take a treatment until he was captured by Hamas. So we've seen here the most unbelievable human stories, and then you're gonna hear about terrorist organization and those who we are releasing among those 250 life sentenced terrorists. I mean, if by that now you don't understand who is the good side and who is the bad side, then you are just a brainwashed, useful idiot for the terrorist organization Hamas.
I mean, it is true when you look at the reactions of Israeli society who were celebrating coming home versus who, unfortunately, far too many Palestinians are celebrating coming home. It's a stark difference when you're looking at convictions. Multiple life sentences for acts of terrorism, and these are their heroes. Very disturbing.
Hamas killed a mother.
All right, let me give you guys an example of what they do when they do the hostage exchanges.
Staged a fifth hostage release. This time, the 3 captives were civilians and were dressed as prisoners. They were paraded in front of hundreds of gunmen and Gazans. Hamas.
Now, obviously, the United States did not want this on the next go-round. Okay, they did not want the hostages to be released in this manner. That's why I don't think we're seeing it on camera.
Trying to show it is still in control in Gaza. Its posters read, "We are the day after," and "total victory." Among the sentences that the masked gunmen forced the hostages to say, a thank you message to Hamas and its Qassam brigades, which carried out the October 7 attacks, in which their loved ones were killed. Orlevi's wife was murdered in the attack on the Nova Music Festival. Standing next to him was Eli Sharabi, who was taken hostage in his kibbutz, Be'eri. A Hamas gunman asked him how he's feeling. The hostage's response, hoping to see his wife and daughters very soon, suggests he was still unaware that Hamas killed all 3 of them on October 7th. Their families watched on television as the 3 hostages were told to speak up. They were then handed over to the Red Cross.
It's been very...
So that's why the U.S. didn't want that to happen. So I think that's why it's not on camera, because that pisses the Israelis off. It pisses off the United States, I guess. So they were like, look, you guys can't do this next time on the next hostage exchange.
In Israel, but they are not yet in the hands of...
So that's why we don't see it on camera, chat, for those of you that are wondering.
The IDF. They are still in the Red Cross vehicles. The first 7 hostages...
He's Lebanese. Yosef Haddad? That makes sense. Because he's an Orthodox Christian, so that makes sense. He was born in Haifa. Yeah, because Haifa is northern Israel. So yeah, that used to be well, when it was Palestine, it was Palestinians. But yeah, that makes sense. He would be potentially Lebanese. But Haifa historically was Palestinian land. But lots of his Lebanese were there too. And for those of you that are wondering, Haifa is located, it's in northern Israel. I can't back out here on a map. It's a big port city, chat. Actually, it was getting hit pretty hard when the Iranians were attacking them. Boom, boom, boom. So, very big. Oh, here we go. Look. So here you can see it's not that far from the border of southern Lebanon. And this area was getting bombed a lot by Hezbollah as well, guys. That's why they invaded southern Lebanon, actually, was because the rockets were coming into Haifa. They had to, evacuate this area. 60,000 Israelis had to get evacuated prior to the Lebanese-Israeli war in 2024, September, when it started.
To be released, they've all mentioned the 250 Palestinian security prisoners.
We'll watch some more of this, and then we're going to go back to Al Jazeera. We go back and forth, chat. You got to watch both sides. You got to watch both sides. I watch Israeli media, and I watch Arab media. Can't be in your own echo chamber.
Israel published a list of 150 prisoners Hamas, these Palestinian Islamic Jihad, Fatah and the PFLP, many convicted of murder, convicted of weapons offenses, and among the worst offenders being freed, we're seeing Yahya Abu Eid, Islamic Jihad in the Jenin area, and he was accused of overseeing many attacks against Israelis. Mohammed Zakarne, a Fatah operative convicted of involvement in a 2009 terrorist attack. Mohammed Abu al-Ghub, he was convicted of a fatal stabbing in 2017. Senior Hamas members who had been freed in the 2011 Gilad Shalit deal, only to return, of course, to terrorism. And some of these terrorists will actually be returning to Judea and Samaria and to Gaza, which is very concerning. Others will, of course, be deported. I mean,
Judea and Samaria, guys, is the West Bank. Israelis refuse to call it the West Bank. They call it Judea and Samaria. That's how you can tell it's an Israeli.
Is that the release list excludes some of the major terrorists like Marwan Barghouti and Ahmed Sadat, some of these major terrorists that Hamas had hoped to get released, but Israel refused. And so that is, of course, a win for Israel. And, you know, up until the very last minute, authorities were making changes, replacing prisoners. You know, this list was sort of in negotiations until really the very last minute. And, of course, we said more than 1,700 detained Gazans have been arrested. Since October 7th, they're also going to be released. So, you know, it's really incredible because Israel is receiving home its young boys, young people, it's you know, bodies of the hostages, people who were just going, you know, to a music peace festival. And in return, Israel has to give up murderers, terrorists, people with blood on their hands. Really, you just see sort of the stark contrast here today.
And mind you, guys, none of these people got trials, or fair trials for that matter. She's calling them terrorists, but they weren't really convicted of being terrorists in a fair court with real representation. They just labeled them a terrorist and they put them in jail. Okay? There's no due process for these Palestinians in these jails at all.
Yes, you know.
And they hold she's not telling you is that they hold 11,000 Palestinians, 3,000 of them roughly are like women and children.
It's interesting you should mention that. By the way, it's not only that they're going to be released to Judea and Samaria, which some people...
But this is why it's important to watch the Israeli propaganda news too.
People call the West Bank, but to Jerusalem as well. And so there are a lot of people, me included, who said, oh my God, now we're in real danger walking around the streets. It's not just that they killed people and the families of those people are outraged. They pose a genuine danger to you and me. But I was told by some security experts that we prefer for them to be in Judea and Samaria and Jerusalem because our security services can keep an eye on them at all times, and one false move, we can take them out. So that's what I was told. That's one thing. And the other is that the two key men that Hamas really wanted released, I think the fear was that they could be the next Sinwar because they had a greater status.
Yo, these guys are fucking terrified of Yahya Sinwar. For those of you that are wondering, this is who they're referring to. So
a lot of people here in Gaza showing...
They're fucking terrified of this nigga, bro. So Yahya Sinwar, guys, this guy, okay, was the head of Hamas's military wing, one of the masterminds of October 7th. The reason why they're terrified of him is because he was exchanged in this prisoner exchange with Gilad Shalit, okay? And he was one of the 1,000 Palestinians that came back to get this IDF soldier back in 2011, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, he taken 2006. They exchanged him in 2011 for 1,000 Palestinians, okay? And Yahya Sinwar, the reason why they're so terrified of this guy is because he spent about 20 years in Israeli prison. And this guy spoke Hebrew. He understood how the Shin Bet and the Mossad operated. So he was a very effective enemy combatant to them. So this is why they're so terrified of him, because he spoke their language and he understands how they do stuff. Matter of fact, let me show you guys something interesting here. And for Arab to speak Hebrew is unheard of.
Feared and fettered at home in Gaza. Universally reviled by Israelis. Yahya Sinwar became the Jewish state's enemy #1 for his leading role in Hamas's brutal October 7th slaughter of almost 1,200 people in Israel. That Shalit, snatched 5 years earlier. It was an object lesson for Sinwar, but he had emerged to a changed reality. Gaza, now cut off from the world by Israel's blockade. Rising to become Hamas's overall leader in Gaza, he worked to reverse those setbacks.
Harming Al-Aqsa, or Jerusalem, means a religious war, and we will not hold back. We, as Palestinians, as well as...
And that's why they call it Operation Al-Aqsa Flood. Because the Temple Foundation wants to destroy the Al-Aqsa Mosque.
Arabs and Muslims are fully prepared and will not hesitate to defend our rights.
And this is why they say, right, one person's terrorists is another person's freedom fighters. In the Arab world, this guy's very respected. Palestinians love this guy. Obviously, the Israelis hate him. So the reason why the Israelis dislike him so much is because he understood their tactics, because he spent so much time in Israeli prison and he spoke their language. I'm trying to find an interview here, guys. Of him speaking Hebrew, because it is very rare for Arabs to speak Hebrew, and he did an interview in Hebrew while he was in prison. What, is this shit banned or something? Is it maybe?
פעילי חמאס.
אבל הוא רצח עוד 3, אני יודע, בהיותו בכלא ישראלי.
So this is him when he's in prison, right?
בעזרת סכין גילוח.
סנואר רצח 2 אסירים.
So this is, I don't know if they're playing the interview, but this is when he did an interview while he was in prison years ago. And he did the interview in Hebrew.
בבוקר הבחנו בגופה.
One of the things he was known for is he used to kill collaborators that cooperated with the Israeli government. Did they ban the interview? Here we go. All right, he knew what, okay, so. We will not recognize the state of Israel, Israel's right to exist. We're ready for a long-term hudna. Which bring a period of calm and prosperity. So, the guy can speak Hebrew. An Arab that can speak Hebrew is fucking crazy, bro. Because as you guys know, Hebrew is not really taught to outsiders, okay? It's not really taught to... It just isn't, bro. So he spent 20 years in prison and learned it. And not only that, he studied Mossad books and he studied the Shin Bet, studied them very closely. And this is why he was so dangerous as an adversary for the Israelis.
וזה כבר כתב ידו. הפתק שכתב לנתניהו.
Could read and write it as well, if I'm not mistaken. So, all right, let's go back to the coverage.
The last minute changes, which almost always happen. So this is the first devastating news, if you will, coming to the families of Palestinian detainees. Those who knew their loved ones would be exiled tried to leave the occupied West Bank yesterday. they were not allowed by Israel. So the reunion will not happen in person when they reach Egypt, which is the first stop they're expected to make.
Noor, we've also had the Israelis warning off people in the West Bank from celebrating when their relatives return.
Yes, contrast the scenes of jubilation that you're seeing in Tel Aviv with very clear instructions, very clear threats. Families of Israeli captives who don't trust the intentions of their prime minister, as they've repeatedly told us in the past days.
Well, absolutely. Steve Witkoff, the U.S. Special Envoy to the region, when mentioning Benjamin Netanyahu's name in Hostages Square, was booed largely here as well. He's not done his popularity any favors.
That is right, especially within the right-wing circles. Let's just remember that Benjamin Netanyahu heads the most right-wing coalition in Israel's history. This coalition wanted more, not less war. Israel is now waging war on 7 fronts, not just a genocide in Gaza. The Israeli ministers were talking annexation of Gaza. They were talking about building settlements in the enclave, about deporting the population. So the fact that Donald Trump announced a ceasefire, announced the acceptance of Hamas's response, is talking about ending the war, is extremely problematic for the coalition. They cannot confront Donald Trump outright, but many in the Israeli political scene warn Netanyahu will look for an excuse, and that's what everybody should be looking out for. That's where the fear is, that, war for now.
And Palestinian prisoners who are expected to be freed in Amman. Let's get you now to New York. Our diplomatic editor, James Bays, is live for us from there. I think Air Force One is due to land within the half hour or thereabouts, and it looks as though we might well get this prisoner swap done by then, or partially done by then at least.
Well, it's even shorter than half an hour, according to the schedule we have. He should be landing in about 12 minutes' time. In fact, we have some pictures from Tel Aviv, from Ben Gurion Airport, where already they've got the red carpet out, and we've also seen pictures of the US and Israeli flags ready for when Air Force One has touched down and when President Trump comes down the steps for what will be a very short visit, not just to Israel, but also to Egypt. The whole trip to the region is under 8 hours long, very carefully choreographed, and choreographed not just the trip and where President Trump's going to go, but also to match the president's flight path. As you say, they've tried to get this exchange of prisoners carried out, which of course is a very delicate matter. So whether it will all be completed by the time he lands, I think probably unlikely now, given the landing time is just minutes away. But they're hoping, I think, it will all be completed by the time the president then goes on to the Israeli parliament, the Knesset, and gives a speech where he's going to, we know what he's going to say because he's already been...
Yeah, we're really on the night train, chat. We are on the night train. We'll be going for 10 and a half hours now.
Is a great deal for everyone involved.
But I'm not streaming tomorrow, so I'm here for you niggas, okay? I'm here for you guys.
And he believes it's a wider piece for the region. But when he goes on to Sharm el-Sheikh, he'll be meeting some international leaders. Again, very short trip. A trip that's only going to be about 3 hours on the ground in Egypt. So in terms of actually meeting other leaders, a very short period of time for that, because there's going to be a formal signing ceremony. And I think there are questions among some of those other countries about what happens after this initial phase. It's a 20-point plan, but as you get further down the 20 points, some of the later points are a little bit more vague, and a lot of the detail needs to be filled in. And we know from the Qatari Prime Minister, who gave an interview to the New York Times, that when they were doing the negotiations, they actually didn't try and fill in that detail at this stage because they thought it could collapse the negotiations. And they wanted this first phase, the phase of the handover of the Israeli captives and the release of the Palestinian prisoners, to be completed, and then then hope to be able to nail down the other details about the future of governance for Gaza. We know some of the plans, and then, of course, what happens beyond that. They talk about a pathway to statehood for the Palestinians. As I say, at that point, the plan gets very vague indeed.
Well, absolutely. So, do we expect anything to emerge then about the second phase?
And guys, do me a favor, smash the like button on YouTube. I came back on YouTube for you niggas. I'm going to probably stay here for a little bit longer. Then we're going to switch back to Party. But I came back on here for you guys to cover this thing. I'm going to stay on a little bit longer. So smash that like button for me, guys. Because a bunch of fucking Go Fucker Lanterns followers came over and disliked my last video like a bunch of fucking retards. Because I don't want to talk to a dumb Brit who's going to talk to me about, try to little bro me on Islam. Like, I don't give a fuck about your opinion, bro. You know what I mean? So smash that like button for your boy, okay? To combat retards that come into my fucking, try to sabotage my stream. So, yeah.
Envoy for the so-called quartet, which was supposed to...
All right, let's go back to Them Boys TV.
By Hamas terrorists the day Hamas decided to invade.
Notice how they call them Hamas terrorists every single time. They call them Hamas terrorists every time. Very important that you guys pay attention to this.
In the Jewish calendar, a day that was of national grief will now be a day of national joy for these families. The Prime Minister is turning darkness into light.
So we heard from the Prime Minister's spokeswoman, Shosh Bedrosian, and we're seeing now again the cheers coming from Hostages Square because we are receiving the very first visuals of the hostages being released. We can see them speaking with their families. We can see them speaking with their families. We have David Cunha, one of them, and they're finally making contact with their families after 2 years. It's just really joyful and incredible.
Hey, DPG with the big 100 fucking gifted subs on Kick. Thank you very much, sir. I really appreciate that, man. DPG with the big $100 fucking subs, man. On Kick. Shout out to you, bro. I really appreciate that very much, man. Thank you so much, dude. Thank you so much.
Of the hostages. Emily, I want to turn to you now. I mean, really just incredible joy to be able to report this. So over to you.
Now you niggas in the Kick chat, because a lot of you guys are brokies, you guys can go ahead and use emotes that are only for subs.
Every time we get an update or we receive new footage, there's huge applause from the crowd here. You can even hear some behind me just now. Just a moment ago, as you stated, we saw the first footage from the Cunha brothers. In addition to that, just a few seconds ago, we received an update that there's the first footage of Nimrod Cohen, another hostage who's been held for 736 days. This is the first time we've seen footage from the Cunha brothers, and from some of these other hostages as well. We haven't received any updates. They're now playing some of the recordings of the initial calls of these hostages reaching out to their families for the first time. Tears of joy both in the audience and, of course,
DPG with the
families
second
here on the ground. Kalev.
big 100 subs. Thank you so much, bro. Holy. Thank you very much, DPG. You are the fucking man. I really appreciate that. Bro is literally supporting the mission, supporting the fire, supporting the heat, so that you guys can go ahead and continue to get this content and this coverage at 2 in the morning. Shout out to DPG. Gifted 100 subs out to all you ninjas.
What's your response to everything we're seeing here?
I mean, it's tremendous. And again, I don't want to jinx it. More and more good news that Matan Zangalko, who's supposed to be in this second release, people are saying that's not going to be until 9/30/10, was in contact with his mother, who's been a major figure in the release.
Oy vey, he has that accent. Oh, God, they're going to release the hostages.
Released by Hamas, somehow being in phone contact with their...
And they always go, Hamas, Hamas.
It's been just tremendous. The news that we see has been tremendous.
It's tremendous. These terrorists are the worst.
President Trump is arriving in Israel?
I mean, I don't know. Maybe he will fly above us at some point. But I want to speak about David Cunio, and actually I want to speak about Sharon Cunio. Sharon Cunio was kidnapped with her 2 daughters, and she was released in the previous waves. Sharon fought for her husband, fought for the release of David, and I can tell you that, knowing it personally, knowing that she's going to reunite with David makes me even more emotional, because I know the struggle that she's been going through, and knowing or imagining that time that she's gonna hug David Cunio. I mean, this is I have no words to describe this feeling. So hopefully we continue here and see those, hear those stories and see those footages.
Yosef, Emily, many of those people that were released in those earlier hostage exchanges or deals had spoken about the mixed feelings they had, the issues they had with having to have been released while their loved ones were still being held. And you can imagine what kind of open wound that is. And for them to get that closure today, you can just imagine just how much it means to them.
Yeah, and we need to understand a very important thing regarding to the psychological war of Hamas to the hostages. Up until the last second, they will torture them and they will play with them whether they're going to be released or not. Some of the hostages that were released, they're saying that up until the last second, they would tell us, oh, you know what, the deal is off. The deal is off. Just to break.
That's because your government fucking fucks with them and they don't know what the fuck's going on. This comes from your government, retard.
Their family.
That's why they're so mad at Bibi. What are you talking about, bro? This guy's a propagandist to the biggest degree.
Back of the tunnels.
Well, you know, there were concerns that they were going to do that anyway today, that they were going to call the families and engage in some other kind of manipulation. There was an explicit warning from the Israeli security.
We have seen things different with this hostage release compared to the others. Again, you have to think that the Trump administration, speaking to Hamas via Qatar and the Egyptians and maybe the Turks as well, have told them we're not going to have the nonsense today that we saw in previous.
Kind of the public outrage we had in Israel because of that circus. We've made it. And when we say we, the citizens of Israel, we made it very clear to our government that we will not tolerate and act like this from Hamas, and you need to deal with it when it comes to the negotiation table. And obviously the Israeli government passed that to the Americans, and I'm happy to see that with the cooperation of all of the parties, they made sure that Hamas did not do that, and by accepting and agreeing to that, that shows the defeat, again, the defeat of the terrorist organization Hamas.
Absolutely. On a heavier note, we did receive an update that the Hamas group in Khan Yunus is preparing for receiving the Palestinian terrorists that have been released. I believe that's part of what we saw with the chair.
See, notice how guys in the Israeli media, they always call them terrorists. You guys catch on to this?
Of course, the ugly scenes that we saw in previous.
It's gonna still be ugly scenes with ugly faces of terrorists.
Of course.
But you know what? If this is how they're gonna show their power.
I love the Hasbara, baby. Hey, I'll tell you this. This is more entertaining. I ain't gonna lie. The Hasbara. Now you guys are seeing the Hasbara. This is what these dudes are getting paid $7,000 to spew back in America. But this is Israeli media, though.
But in the meantime, let's go back to you.
Some retard said, Myron, are you live? Yeah, nigga. What the fuck do you think? Of course I'm live, retard. Holy shit, bro. Why are people in the YouTube chat so stupid? Yes, I'm live, dumbass. The fuck do you think this is? The title's called live coverage.
Hostages will actually be transferred over to the Red Cross privately without any press. And so what we're seeing there is likely some kind of impromptu ceremony for the return of these, terrorists.
To welcome them as heroes or something.
Exactly.
Right.
And now I want to turn to Ben Gurion International Airport again, where Air Force One is moments from landing. As we saw, the red carpet has been rolled out and American flags line the tarmac, and security teams are in final position. And in just a few minutes, President Donald Trump will step off the plane for a very short visit. and he will be greeted by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his wife Sarah, along with President Yitzhak Herzog. They'll make their way to the Knesset in Jerusalem for a private meeting between the Prime Minister and Trump, and they'll meet with families of the hostages at the Knesset. And then, of course, President Trump will address the Israeli Knesset, a very, very high honor. He's here for a very short visit. Then he's heading to Egypt for a summit with Arab and European leaders. And so now I want to bring on Ari Berman, the former chief of staff to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and an expert on U.S.-Israel relations. Ari, wonderful of you to join. I mean, before we get to Trump, I just want to hear your thoughts on this historic day, the release of the hostages after 736 days of war.
Hi, Lidar. I mean, this is, such an emotional roller coaster that we've been on for the last 2 years. And to experience what we're seeing today, together with all of Israel, this is one of those moments that we'll all remember where it didn't matter if you were part of the left-wing camp or the right-wing camp, Ashkenazi, Sephardi, from the city or from the village. We're all together as one people and one nation. And all we can do is hug the returning hostages and their families and really be proud to be Israelis and Jews in this land.
Absolutely. And so turning now to Trump's visit, he's set to land really at any moment. It's an historic visit. He's going to be speaking at the Knesset, the first president to do so since George W. Bush. What's his aim or his goal in coming here today? And what will his message be for the people of Israel?
I think that he has two goals in mind. One is sort of to take claim for his involvement in bringing about this ceasefire and bringing home the hostages.
You know that. He's going to definitely take credit.
As an integral nuclear threat is, in essence, what shifted the chess pieces and allowed the President of the United States to step in and help us reach this final goal. So I think, getting back to his visit, number one, it's sort of a victory lap from that perspective. And number two is that President Trump will not suffice with this being the end of the process. In other words, it's not just about bringing the hostages home. His vision is to lead us to a much broader realignment in the region with potential agreements, some peace agreements and some other agreements, be it with Saudi Arabia, with Lebanon, with Syria, and with other Muslim countries around the world. And this is not only the end of one chapter, it is the beginning of that next step towards a different reality in the region.
Now, as you mentioned, Trump has promised or he's hinted at this wider peace deal here. How likely is it that he may announce, an expansion of the Abraham Accords today, either in Israel or in Egypt? I mean, is that something that's on the table, or is this...
Fuck no. None of the Arab countries are joining the Abraham Accords right now.
Even in the distant future.
So I'm smiling because, as you rightfully noted, President Trump definitely likes drama, and that would be a dramatic turn of events.
Yeah.
But I think it is somewhat premature. I think that many of those next steps are going to take place, but they...
Hold on, but why is it premature, retard? Let's talk about the why. Maybe it's because Israel literally just bombed Qatar. Maybe it's because since you guys fucking bombed Qatar, guess what the U.S. has to do? The U.S. has to play nice and allow a fucking Qatari military Air Force base to exist in the United States. You guys want to, because here's the other ugly thing. No one's talking about this. You guys want to know why we have this fucking Qatari base in the United States that's coming? You guys want to know why? I guarantee you it's because we had to sign this fucking agreement with them, a NATO-like agreement, by the way, where an attack on Qatar is like an attack on us. We had to sign this agreement with them after the Israelis bombed them. And to make good on it, we probably also told them, yo, we'll allow you to put a base in the United States. Because Qatar is a huge business ally of the United States. And they probably said, you know what? If you guys don't fucking guarantee our security, we are backing out of our deals. We're pulling out the fucking business deals that we have with you guys. We're going to attack Israel, and we will cause havoc in the Middle East. The United States, you know what? We can't have that. We don't want another war. We will allow you guys to have a base in the United States. That's what no one is talking about, chat. I fucking guarantee you guys. You heard it here first. I don't think anyone else has said this. You heard it here first. Okay, because I was going to talk about this Qatar base in the United States, which I'm not a fan of, by the way. FYI. Not a fan of a foreign military putting a fucking base here. Okay? But let's be honest here. The United States found themselves in a very bad position because the Israelis bombed them months after we literally struck a deal with them. So what the fuck did they do? They said, you know what? We're going to attack the Israelis. The Arab world is going to join us, and we're going to pull out this fucking deal that you negotiated back in April. Don't forget, motherfuckers. Don't forget, okay? Don't forget that Trump went to the Gulf states first. Trump went to Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and these Arab countries first. His family has business dealings in the Middle East. His sons both have deals with the Qataris. The Qataris pledged a lot of money to the United States to do business. And we don't hold up our end of the bargain. Our job, we must protect them. They have a military base. Our biggest military base is there. Someone said it's a training facility, not a base. You're a fucking retard. Same shit, bro. It's a base. Where are you going to train? At a base. Stop being a dumbass, dude. You're in the OSS. You got to be smarter than this. It is a military base. Where else would you train? God fucking damn it. So anyway, a reason why we had to capitulate on this base, I guarantee you guys, or training facility, whatever the fuck you want to call it, is because of the Israelis. And this is what I'm talking about when I say the Israelis undermine our diplomacy, they undermine our foreign policy, they put us in really bad fucking situations. Guarantee. A big reason why we had to open this facility or allow this to happen was to fucking stop the nightmare that would have happened if the Gulf states attacked Israel. Do you guys remember the fact that Pakistan and the Saudis, okay, Pakistan and the Saudis signed the fucking deal? Basically, Saudi Arabia bought nuclear weapons, chat. Because the Israelis attacking the Qataris had them concerned. Wow, we can't depend on the United States to protect us. So what did they do? They basically signed a NATO-like fucking alliance with Pakistan, where if you attack Saudi Arabia, it's like attacking Pakistan. Pakistan's a nuclear power, chat. So MBS, Mohammed bin Salman, basically bought nuclear weapons. Congratulations. Thanks to the fucking Israelis. See what I mean? See what I mean, chat? When I say that these fucking Israelis create problems for us, that's what I'm talking about, because you guys don't see the trickle-down effects of their fucking rogue policy. They bomb their enemies, they create problems, we got to do the cleanup. And in this case, the cleanup is, now we got to have a foreign military in our country. Now the cleanup is, the Saudis, who are supposed to be one of our best allies in the region, are now partnering up with the Pakistanis. Now, the Pakistanis do work with the Americans, but we don't really trust them. Why do you think when Obama went in to kill Osama bin Laden, he didn't tell them shit? You ever think about that? We can't really trust the Pakistanis like that. And then guess what makes it even worse? This makes them go further into what? China and Russia's realm of influence. See what I'm talking about here? This is what people don't understand. The Israelis do stupid shit. We have to deal with it later on. Now we push away the Qataris, and we have to do this dumb shit, allow them in our country. And the Saudis signed a deal with the Pakistanis and basically just bought nuclear weapons. And here's the other thing too. Other Muslim countries might join this pact. Saudi Arabia and Pakistan basically are starting a Muslim NATO. They basically just started a Muslim NATO. And as Israel continues to be more aggressive in the region, I see other Muslim countries signing on. Anyway, let's get back to it.
President Trump throughout the day has been we continue to get updates on the ground. What do you think of what we just saw, Caleb?
You know, it's amazing because we're about to see probably an amazing split screen, which is that second release of the hostages, which is, we have been told earlier, would be about 10 o'clock. And that is when it seems when President Trump's plane, when Air Force One will be landing and he'll be coming off. And we have to keep in mind two things are happening today. In a way, the fulfillment of phase one of the hostage deal, of this agreement, ending the war in Gaza with the release of hostages, and we're going to phase two, because we're going to have that speech by President Trump and this extraordinary summit, which is going to take place later today in Egypt at Sharm el-Sheikh. President Trump with many of the world leaders who will be there, and we don't know.
And with world leaders who are not.
All right, we're still waiting on Trump.
Been...
All right, guys, quick word from a sponsor, niggas. Okay. I've been going for almost 12 hours now. They banned me on Instagram, they demonetized me on YouTube, they banned me on Facebook, they banned me on Twitch. The ADL and the SPLC put me on their hit list, as well as Media Matters. That tells you everything you need to know. They don't want you to hear what I have to say. And that's exactly why the OSS Army exists. The OSS is my uncensored army, where the truth prevails over all the lies. But OSS isn't just content, guys. It's a movement. It doesn't feel like a group. It's a force. It's an army. Inside the community, you connect with like-minded individuals that aren't afraid to question the narrative. 46,000 plus strong, pushing towards 10,000. Every new member makes the message louder, and they can't censor all of us. This is where you can speak freely and not have to be worried about being judged, fired, labeled a hater, anti-Semite, misogynist, or any of these other stupid-ass buzz terms that they leak to use for people that are critical thinkers. The movement goes beyond the live stream. We build a community. We're able to have discussions. We're able to go ahead and interact with each other the way that we want, where we don't have to worry about censorship. We have a Telegram group where you can connect with like-minded guys. We have a Discord that's completely free, and we do one annual meetup per year in Miami on 420. You'll also get access to exclusive live streams you won't find on YouTube, call-on portions of the show, and other goodies that you won't find anywhere else. And even the merch is a part of the mission. But it's not about fashion, it's about an identity. You have the ability to think critically and challenge the narrative. High quality Nike gear, and not ridiculously branded, that allows you to identify each other without being too overt and understanding that you know what the hell is up. So you can go ahead and move covertly with your red pill awareness compared to other blue pill normies. All of this for just $10 a month, or you can join for the year, use JFK 911 as a promo code, and you get in for $50 for the year. This isn't just content, it's or L YouTube, guys. You literally, code is pinned at the top. L YouTube is the code to use, because fuck YouTube. Resistance, it's culture, and it's freedom. It's the OSS Army. Hey man, get in, niggas. That's how we support the mission. You guys wonder, yo, Myron, how you been able to operate for 2 years without fucking, without being monetized? This how. And also, this entire 12-hour stream that we're probably gonna go on is all gonna be on the OSS. Uninterrupted the whole way, even the blackouts when the internet's down. So make sure to join, because the whole stream is going to be there. Party's going to have large chunks of it as well, but the whole stream uninterrupted is on OSS. So
and friendly
of Gaza. This is unbelievable, and the fact is that today the IDF controls major points in Gaza that allows the security of the southern state of Israel, the southern borders of Israel. This is also huge. Hamas completely ignore that and only talks about the points where Israel withdraw from Khan Yunus and from the city of Gaza and Jabalia. But the fact is that we withdraw from those three places, stayed more than 50% of it. So that's one. That itself just shows about the crazy defeat of Hamas. Second, we're seeing through the videos that Hamas is right now showing in Gaza no signs of green banners or green uniforms. There's not a lot of crowd like we've seen before. They are not doing their circus like we thought that they would do if they were like in.
Guys, we're sitting at 600 likes, but we got fucking 1,500 you niggas in here watching on YouTube alone. We should be at 1,000 easy. I came back on YouTube for you ninjas. We're going to get off here soon. Smash the fucking like button. Stupid. Okay?
Power. And more than that, we've seen how since yesterday there's clashes between Palestinians, armed Palestinians with armed Hamas members, resulting of killing.
I got this retard. Vikram says, anyone wonder why Myron is paywalling everything? Are you fucking retarded, bro? Have you not been watching the stream for free the entire time, you fucking dumbass? But you know what? Your last name is Patel, so I'm not surprised. Not surprised. You fucking dumbass. Niggas been watching the stream the whole time saying I'm paywalling everything. You're a fucking retard. Literally a fucking retard.
Numbers of Hamas terrorists, among them the so-called journalist Salah al-Jafarawi that was sent to hell by his own people. So the irony here is that the society in Gaza is destroyed from the inside. So by any definition, it's a total defeat for the Palestinian people in Gaza and certainly for the terrorists of Hamas, and total victory for us.
For us, absolutely, absolutely. I know.
Seeing the hostages coming back, that is the full circle that we wanted.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you only committed a genocide to do it. And lost the entire fucking world support, you retards. All right, let's go to Al Jazeera. We're watching both sides, niggas.
Well, to do anything, you've got to rebuild the place, which has been utterly destroyed.
It's utterly destroyed, devastated, and Israel is yet to allow the big machines in, the aid inside, and that we're talking.
And you know, it's funny because Israel said, oh, we're going to resume aid. Oh, didn't you guys say that you were giving aid the whole time? That doesn't make sense.
Be rebuilt. But more importantly, I think, Rashad, is the traumas that were caused by a 2-year genocide being live streamed. That's something that the people in Gaza need a lot right now. You know, if you're watching the news in Gaza, you probably would have been affected.
Yo, it's funny. The people that said that I lost the debate are all retarded Muslims that don't understand logic and don't understand that you're a minority here. That's funny, bro. Show me your low IQ without showing me your low IQ.
Of aid, the lack of food in a man-made starvation.
If you think you won the debate, bro, then I don't know what to tell you, bro. Like, it's very simple. We're the minority here. Praying outwardly and disrupting others is unacceptable. It's that simple, dude. It's that fucking simple. And I showed the Times Square prayer earlier. That was disruptive. That was way more invasive than he said. Way more invasive.
Crossing the border. And that's what you need every day.
That's what Gaza used to get before the war. So let's not forget that the 600 trucks were entering Gaza before the war started. So imagine the dire need right now. Imagine how many hospitals have been destroyed, how many homes have been flattened, how many people have lost their jobs, so they have no way of earning money to be able to.
And it used to be 600 trucks a day. Guess how many trucks were coming in when they were getting the famine and they were saying there was aid? 20 trucks were coming in, bro. 20 trucks a day were coming in.
Go beyond the 600. Of course, the 600 trucks are going to be of much needed relief. The numbers are yet to reach that level right now. But again, this is something that.
But Sneako's my guy. That's a guy I can have a discussion with like that. But these other niggas, bro, I don't give a fuck what they got to say. These Dawa niggas, bro. I don't care. Me and Sneako are not religious YouTubers. We're not. Okay? Feels good for him to call him a YouTuber again. But yeah, we're not fucking religious creators. We're not. These niggas are. That's their entire identity.
Arrest them, but still, not only were they arrested, but they were unaccounted for as Israel refused to give human rights organizations information about them, their detention. So it was really hard to get information about what their status is inside Israeli jail. We've heard a lot of stories about doctors who were tortured, including Dr. Adnan al-Bursh, who was a very well-known.
Yo, Privy, just so you know, bro, every single time you come back in a party chat and another name, nigga, you're gonna get sent to the shadow realm, nigga. You're a Jeep pagan. Automatic L. My brothers of the book, Jews, Muslims, Christians, cool. You pagan Jeep niggas, bro, cow worshippers, shadow realm. The fuck out of here.
And lack of medical attention inside jails.
Nida, we'll be back with you, no doubt, to the course of the show. Nida Ibrahim there. Let's get you to Amman now. Noor Ode is following developments. I believe the latest line we have at the moment is that 7 hostages, so 7 captives released by Hamas have crossed into Israel now. Can you tell us any more?
The 7 captives have crossed into.
And the belief and the bravery of Israeli
we'll go back to
Israeli. We wouldn't have been able to have the stamina to be here today and to rejoice in the fact that part of that horrible day of October 7, 2 years ago, is now finally being, to a certain extent, rectified.
Absolutely. We have to, of course, first and foremost, give thanks to the brave IDF soldiers. And I just want to say the visuals we're seeing now, this is live. We are seeing the hostages driving now to Re'im Air Base live. We're seeing them in the vans in Israeli hands. Now, Jonathan, you know, you talked about this. This plan, this peace plan. And you said that the most important thing, of course, is that it's implemented. But what happens if Hamas breaches this agreement? They've already...
This Jonathan guy's another propagandist that's always on Piers Morgan yapping.
Core tenets of this plan. And, you know, you said that the hostages will be back in Israeli hands. It'll be a different story in terms of the IDF's ability to go in. But will the IDF be able to return to war? I mean, will President Trump allow it now that he's essentially declared an end to the war? Will he?
The Israelis don't give a fuck. They're going to go back to war.
I just want to say we're seeing the visuals of Air Force One on the screen.
All right, Trump's about to land, chat.
On International Airport. So, Jonathan, over to you.
Yeah, welcome.
Well, we're still sitting at 798 likes, but we got 1,500 plus you niggas in here. Smash that like button, goddammit.
The officially known document of the core of the agreement, the 20 points. And then that document makes references to riders to the agreement. And I think, and they are, of course, not publicly available. And I think they are the most crucial parts. And those are the scenarios. Those are the what if situation. And I would be very surprised, and I think it's not reality, I would be very surprised if Israel hadn't factored that in, and if the Israeli negotiations team under former Ambassador Dermer, under the guidance of the Prime Minister, haven't prepared scenarios for that and haven't, agreed with that on the Americans. I think that there's already understandings between the U.S. Maybe they're verbal, maybe they're written, what Israel will be allowed or entitled to do if and when Hamas violate the agreement in any, substantial, very meaningful way. That Israel is prepared for that and hoping not to find ourselves in that situation. But I think it's very important that Hamas understands, and this has been said by the Prime Minister, Defense Minister, etc., we mean business here. And if Hamas are going to renege on the agreement, then we are going to fulfill it, or we're going to make you do it by force. And then the next round of violence, if unfortunately it comes upon us, will be different because we won't be...
Yeah, unfortunately, AK, they
Hamas terrorists. So that'll be...
That's what they want, is the violence.
To say that, of course, Israel has to play along more or less the boundaries defined by the president, but there's also...
All right, let's go back to Al Jazeera. Looks like your boy Trump just landed in Israel, chat.
The Israeli captives, we understand it. And then...
The eagle has landed, chat. Trump has just landed in Israel.
Sort of things he's going to say there, because he's been speaking to reporters on the plane and talking about how this is a great deal for people in the region, a great deal for Palestinians and for Israelis, and has talked about it being the start of a long-term peace in the region. Of course, we don't have any details, or not many details, of the latter parts of this plan and how it could lead to a lasting peace. Then the short flight to Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt, that Red Sea resort that's been used for peace talks in the past. Well, that is where there will be a signing ceremony. Yes, his 20-point plan was already signed by all sides, but they're going to do it again this time with President Trump there signing it himself. And a range of important countries, regional and international countries, will be there in Sharm el-Sheikh. Whether they'll have any time to have any substantive discussions with the US president isn't entirely clear, because his entire trip to Egypt is just 3 hours long. And once you've got off the aircraft and back on the aircraft, I would estimate he's only going to have about 2 hours with those other leaders. And you've got to build in that signing ceremony that's taking place. So a very compressed trip here from the US president.
Yeah, we're just seeing Air Force One just landing and a guard of honor being at the moment put in place of a red carpet, which has already been rolled out for the president there. So the schedule is tough.
They better roll out the red carpet. Israel owes its existence to the United States, bro. These niggas are our sons, and they still disobey us.
With And everybody's asking, well, what's next?
Yes, exactly. That we know, I think, what is going to happen, or at least what's supposed to happen in the coming hours while President Trump is here. But I think as you go down the 20-point plan, things get vaguer and there are more questions about what will happen. Perhaps with all these other leaders that are going to be in Sharm el-Sheikh and other key figures like the UN Secretary General, they'll be able to make some progress on some of the detail that's not publicly laid out in the plan. I think the two key things are, or maybe three key things, are the disarmament of Hamas. How is that going to be carried out? The International Stabilization Force, are they going to be the ones that are going to disarm Hamas? That force, of course, is there on paper, but in terms of exactly which countries are going to contribute troops on the ground, that's not clear. We know there are some countries in the region that are going to contribute forces. We know Indonesia's made an offer. We know that France and Italy may send a few officers.
We'll probably stick on Al Jazeera, guys, because Al Jazeera is better quality. The Israeli shit keeps like cutting out.
And I hope that we will see other achievements with the support of Trump in the region. Absolutely. We're seeing the president's plane make its way
into Gaza, and they, from outside Gaza,
there's Mike Huckabee, aka Mike Huckabee,
in Israel, I think will be coordinating the arrival of the...
It looks like him from the back of his head, who is the Israeli ambassador.
With the Israelis on the ground about that force and its arrival. But of course, that force, as I say, we don't even know exactly which countries are going.
This crazy. The last president to speak at the Knesset was Bush? God damn.
A matter of days, probably weeks before there are international forces on the ground. Then how is Gaza going to be actually run? Well, President Trump has made himself the chair of a board of peace, as they are calling it, which is going to run Gaza. That sounds fine, but exactly, President Trump's not going to be here on the ground running Gaza. Of course, he's only here for a very short visit and heading back to Washington.
Smash that like button, ninjas. Smash that fucking like button.
Tony Blair, a controversial figure in the region, he's been mentioned as another member of that board of peace. But how is that actually going to turn into actual on-the-ground governance of Gaza? Are they going to use any of the officials that have been there in the past? Because, of course, it's a Hamas-run government, but some of those officials on the ground are technocrats who were working in the government of Gaza before Hamas was even running the government of Gaza. Will they be allowed to stay in their jobs, in their civil service jobs? That's not clear in the plan. What role for the UN agency UNRWA, which has been demonized by the Israelis, and yet they are the people who have the capability to deliver aid. They have experience in the health sector. They run the schools in Gaza before the 2 years of conflict. Will they be allowed to continue their role under this board of peace? Lots and lots of questions, and we don't have answers to many of them. Maybe, even if President Trump's not in Sharm el-Sheikh for all that long, there will be others there. Jared Kushner, the president's son-in-law, Steve Witkoff, his special envoy, and lots of other world leaders. Maybe they can have more substantive discussions while they're in Sharm el-Sheikh and try and iron out some of these details.
James, thanks. James Bays, our diplomatic editor, joining us from New York. We do have these pictures coming through of the welcoming committee, the red carpet, as Air Force One landed, and we're expecting, of course, Donald Trump to be getting off that plane and be greeted by the Israeli Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu. Now, Maoz Inon is an award-winning peace activist whose parents were killed in the Hamas-led October the 7th attacks on southern Lebanon. And he joins us now from Binyaminia. Thank you so much for joining us, Maoz. Today must be a bittersweet day for you.
Yeah, you cannot phrase it better. I started the day crying, watching the hostages being released, and it's bringing a lot of emotion to me and to all Israelis. And yeah, and it's very sad that it's also just marked the 2nd anniversary of losing my both parents. And
see if this
happening right now, so let's just wait for that first image of U.S. President Donald Trump. And until he arrives, I just want to give a very quick update that Lishai Miran Lavi, she's the wife of the newly released Omri Miran. So she spoke to her husband just now. She spoke to him for the first time in over 2 years. So it was just an incredibly emotional moment. The last time that she saw him, he was being led by terrorists out of their home in southern Israel. So just absolute joy at being able to speak to him and hear his voice once again. And so I hope we'll be able to share more good news with that. Now, Ruti, we're awaiting President Trump. We see Prime Minister Netanyahu waiting. What are your thoughts as you're seeing these images?
My thoughts are that this is a fantastic scene. And as long as we don't let the Israeli opposition try to pretend or push a wedge between Washington and Jerusalem, we have a chance, and Netanyahu has a chance to keep going with this. Because the only way we'll ever be able to move ahead with phase 2, if at all, or not move ahead, but the only way is if we have Israeli will to withstand the pressures from those very people who screamed all along, why did we wait so long to make this deal, as though we could have made it all along, which is false.
You could have made it on October 9th. Stop fucking lying. We read the Times of Israel fucking article from the family. What are you talking about, lady?
We have to have a strong Netanyahu, a strong resists the pressure to claim that somehow he's got to give up. That's the way I see it. I think Trump respects that. In fact, I think that's part of the secret to their friendship, I call it that, or alliance, I would say.
Yeah, well, they've been friends for years and years, Trump and Netanyahu. And now we're seeing also, we've seen Steve Witkoff join the line. So they're all waiting, eagerly awaiting President Trump to step off the plane. We saw earlier that they had flown over the beach where there was huge flags, American flags and Israeli flags that he saw from Air Force One. They flew over Hostages Square, seeing the thousands and thousands of people who are gathered. So really just quite an incredible time to arrive here in Israel. Of course, we had hoped that all the hostages would be back in Israel by the time that U.S. President Trump arrives. Unfortunately, that's not the case, but we have 7 hostages currently in IDF hands, and we are awaiting for the remaining 13 live hostages. And now we're seeing President Trump, Prime Minister Netanyahu, and President Herzog and their wives making their way on the red carpet to greet President Trump as he steps off of Air Force One. So let's wait and see these images. They're making their way, and behind them we see Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner, Steve Witkoff. They were instrumental in bringing this deal together, Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner.
Kushner. Ron Dermer, let's not forget.
Dermer, absolutely, on the Israeli side.
Strategic Affairs Minister, who outgoing because he has basically left the government now, and he'll be in an advisory capacity. But
yeah, so I do want to mention that, Strategic Affairs Minister Ron Dermer, he played an essential role in he was the lead negotiator for Israel.
Yes.
He pretty much, together with Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, crafted this 20-point peace plan. Hours and hours and hours of negotiations and meetings in Washington, flying back and forth. I mean, really instrumental to this deal. We do. Ruti, you're so right to point this out, because we so often talk just about, the American involvement in this. But as you pointed out many times, we couldn't have done this without, key Israeli figures. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Strategic Affairs Minister Ron Dermer, all played a critical and essential role in getting this hostage deal together.
And they were vilified and have been, and Ron Dermer, protesters outside his house with a big zero saying he got no hostages back. And the point is, you have 2 people who are really instrumental. By the way, those same people saying that praise Witkoff and praise Kushner and praise Trump. We just have to keep reminding us this, because there's this mantra going on, and it's important to state that this was not forced on Prime Minister Netanyahu. He and Dermer were instrumental in crafting it together with the Americans.
Absolutely. I think that's a very,
I sound like a broken record, but I have to.
No, it's a very important point that needs to get across, and unfortunately it's lost in a lot of media coverage. The role that Prime Minister Netanyahu played, the role that Strategic Affairs Minister Ron Dermer played, it was really instrumental together with Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner. And I was just going to say Jared Kushner as well said he was taking a step back, but we saw Trump bring him back in to the fold to get this hostage deal done. So that was something very, very important. And we know, of course, that Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump, they've both visited Israel many, many times after October 7th, and they have a deep connection to Israel. So this is really incredible to see them back, in the Trump administration, bringing together this deal to fruition. And so we're still waiting. Oh, here we go. So we have U.S. President Donald Trump emerging from Air Force One. He's arrived in Israel, stepped off the plane. And in Trump fashion, we see the sort of the fist pump there. And he's making his way down. So just really an incredible, historic moment that we are witnessing today, on a day when 20 living hostages are going to be released, and unfortunately the remaining deceased hostages. And of course, President Trump arriving here in Israel. He's being greeted right now by Israeli President Yitzhak Herzog. And I just want to say, I'll take this opportunity to say, Trump, despite this incredible peace deal, he didn't get the Nobel Prize in the end, unfortunately. But President Yitzhak Herzog has said that he will inform President Trump today of his decision to award the Israeli Presidential Medal of Honor, sort of in recognition of his, of his efforts to bring the hostages home. The Presidential Medal of Honor, for those who don't know, it's awarded to those who've made an outstanding contribution to the state of Israel or to humanity through their talents, service, or other means. And it is the highest civilian honor awarded by the state of Israel. And so in the coming months, President Herzog will present President Trump with this incredible honor, the Presidential Medal of Honor. And according to a statement put out by the president's residence, it's in recognition of his role in achieving a historic agreement, advancing the release of the hostages and an end to the war. And the award also notes President Trump's steadfast and unwavering support for the state of Israel, his unique contribution to Israel's security and the well-being of its citizens, and his commitment to leading the entire region toward an era of peace and cooperation. So President Herzog's going to notify Trump of this decision during
at the same time. The first 7 released hostages are making their way, I believe, towards Re'im Air Base, Re'im military base in Israel. There's Trump. So we're showing you both things. Oh, look, people are greeting the hostages now. Look at this. Guys, people are greeting the hostages. Can you see this? Look at the crowds greeting the hostages there. The hostages are arriving at the Re'im military base right now. The hostages are arriving at Re'im military base right now. So I'm trying to show you both things at once. But I can see on the Re'im shot, the hostages, the convoy is going by. Those are those crowds that have been waiting for them to show up. 7 of the 20 living hostages arriving at the military base right this second. Wow. As Trump is on the tarmac. Let me real quick just go to that real quick, make it a bit bigger for you, just so you can see what's happening there. That's the hostage convoy showing up at the military base. And then there's Trump with Ivanka and Jared. Trying to show you both things. Steve Witkoff is there too. I don't want to ignore the hostages. Look, there's the hostages right here. Oh my gosh, there's too much happening. There's too much happening. Throw this down there. That's what. Put this here. I can put.
I hope we have the Knesset speech, guys. We'll see if they. I hope they broadcast it.
Shot. All right, that shot is over. That shot is now over. So we can get rid of that shot. Okay. We can get rid of that shot.
I'll reach out soon, ninjas.
You guys okay? If you can,
But timestamps are up on all the platforms, guys. Timestamps are up on the other videos, on both YouTube videos and Rumble and Locals. Got you, niggas, man. We don't stop, baby. The Prime Minister and the President, by the way, if you guys are wondering who he's with. Israel has a president and a prime minister, but the prime minister is the chief head of state in Israel. It's a paramilitary government, which typically means it's going to be the PM that runs it. Sorry, guys, I'm running on like no sleep right now. I'm tired as fuck, man. I ain't gonna lie. We've been going for what? Yeah, we've been going officially for 11 and a half hours. Are these niggas wearing masks? Bro, these niggas are wearing masks? Bruh. Yo, it's 2025. But then again, we know who ran COVID. Not surprised.
Around this way, correct. Yeah, you can go around that way.
I guess he's not going to speak or anything? No? I didn't know they had microphones there, so maybe the microphones were just to capture the sound. In less than an hour, President Trump will be addressing the Israeli Knesset, the parliament, in less than an hour. So we'll be carrying that live.
I guess I'll be here too, niggas.
If 5 minutes to join them, yeah? I'm not sure. Yeah.
Guys, smash the like button. We need to get 1,000 likes on this bitch. 1,000 likes. Got 1,700 of you guys in here, giving you guys that heat, despite retarded haters.
It is 3:05 a.m. Eastern time right now. Thanks for tuning in, wherever you are. I am still in Madrid. It is 9:05 a.m. here. I think I'm more on. I think I'm more on U.S. time right now. I'm all confused. But President Trump, you can see, we just saw him land. He is talking with Bibi Netanyahu. There they are. We're going to continue our coverage. I haven't even checked, but we're waiting for the other 13 living hostages to be released. I don't know if we've heard an update on them. Let me check on that. There's been so much happening.
All right, we're at 974, guys. Hit that 1,000.
Trump and Bibi in the car there. I have an update, guys. I have a new update. I have a new update for you. Hang on. The IDF announces that members of the Red Cross are on their way to another meeting point in the southern Gaza Strip where a number of hostages will be handed over to them. Okay? So 7 of them are back in Israel of the 20 living hostages. The Red Cross is now going to get more hostages in southern Gaza. More hostages going to be handed over to, will it be all 13 of the remaining 20? Maybe it will be. So that we have to look out for. And I'm going to keep the camera on Trump and Netanyahu in the car for right now. And let me just check a couple things here. Okay, we have that. We have that. Hey guys, so we do have this video from Khan Yunus, but some of our viewers said the Khan Yunus video is going to be for the prisoners when they show up in Khan Yunus. I mean, but I'll keep an eye on the Khan Yunus video in Gaza, because, I mean, in theory, we might see hostages on that video. I don't think we're supposed to see the hostages on live video in Gaza, but we'll have to see. So we're keeping an eye on the airport there. And again, the IDF says the Red Cross is now heading to a point in southern Gaza where they're going to get more hostages. More hostages. Are we going to have the last 13 handed over? I don't know. There is Trump. And after the hostages are handed over, Israel will will release about 2,000 Palestinian prisoners. So we're keeping you updated on all these different fronts.
Yeah, this anchor does suck, chat. I agree. He fucking sucks.
For the Israeli public, for the families of Israeli captives who credit Trump and no one else with the release of their loved ones. The Israeli president is expected to give Donald Trump Israel's highest medal of honor, highest civilian medal of honor, in appreciation, in recognition.
And he's on his way out of the airport. On the right-hand side of the screen, we're looking at the crowds that are in Hostage Square, what's known as Hostage Square in Tel Aviv. And we understand that they cheered as the U.S. President Donald Trump arrived at Ben Gurion Airport. Noor, it's, You know, this has all seemed to end, right? At least this first phase of the ceasefire deal has come about via a deal. And this perhaps is not what Netanyahu wanted. All along, he tried to find a sort of military solution to what was happening in Gaza and simply was unable to. How significant is that?
That is absolutely right, Darine. Netanyahu promised his base absolute victory, crushing Hamas, securing the release.
And they're definitely still alive. Did not crush Hamas. They're still around.
When Donald Trump basically...
Guys, we are going to be switching over to party only here very soon. OSS niggas and party, you guys are fine. But party niggas and OSS niggas only. So we are going to leave YouTube here very soon. I'm going to start dropping a link for you guys so you get ready.
The destruction of many of its neighborhoods. At the end of the day, the Israeli public, especially the families of Israeli captives, don't really see it that way. They blame Netanyahu for wanting to keep his coalition intact a lot more than he wanted to release the Israeli captives who could have been released all in one go, in one deal since the beginning of the war. That is something that Hamas had offered since October 8th of 2023.
Boom. I said the 10th. That was being nice.
Deal after deal and then breaking deal after deal. And that is why when it was time to say thanks, Israeli families gave that to Donald Trump.
Okay, Noor, stand by for just a moment. Once again, these are the live pictures from what's known as Hostage Square in Tel Aviv. It's been a pivotal moment in a breakthrough ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. Hamas has released the first group of living Israeli captives, as agreed under the U.S. ceasefire.
So, guys, we're going to go over to party. We've been on YouTube for 2 hours and Rumble for 2 hours. We're going to go back to party. Come on over, guys. OSS guys, you guys are fine. Don't go nowhere. Just do me a favor, OSS guys, open up a party tab for me. I'd really appreciate that. Matter of fact, let me drop it in the chat for you guys. Okay? Just open a tab for me on your phone, whatever it may be. We're ending YouTube. We're ending YouTube, Rumble. We're ending YouTube, Rumble, and Kick. Okay, guys? So OSS and party only. Come on over, guys. Come on over. Ending the YouTube stream here. So come on over, guys. We're putting a link for you guys. We're spamming it. We're switching over, guys. Come on over. Kick, Rumble, YouTube, we're getting off. Come to party or OSS. One of the two. You can watch for free on party, or if you're an OSS member, watch on there. Whichever one you prefer. Dudes want to complain all day. Dude said, turning my back. Yo, let me deal with these Rumble niggas. Hey, you idiots on Rumble. Don't get it fucking twisted. I love Rumble. However, the deal that we have for Rumble is for Fresh and Fit. It's not for Myron Gaines X. This 12 hours that I'm doing is not on fucking Fresh and Fit, you fucking retards. Okay? I have an entire team, I have an entire staff that I have to take care of that deals with Myron Gaines X. Do you understand? This is a fucking business. You fucking idiots. And it's ridiculous that I have to tell you retards this shit. I would think on Rumble you guys would be higher IQ. Myron Gaines X is always going to be on Rumble, and it's always going to be on Locals, which, by the way, Locals is a part of Rumble, retards. You niggas are just complaining because you don't want to pay a fucking dollar on watch on OSS. That's what you guys are really bitching about. So if you want to support me and support Rumble, go on OSS. It's only $1. If not, shut the fuck up and come to Rumble, come to party and watch for free. But the reality is, Rumble, Fresh and Fit is to Rumble. Myron Gaines X in the Debrief is its own entity with its own team that I have to take care of. It's running a fucking business, dumbass. So shut the fuck up. Holy shit, you niggas are idiots. It's incredible I even have to articulate this to you guys. It's incredible I even have to say this. Fresh and Fit is on Rumble. Myron Gaines X is its own entity. You think it's fucking cheap to run around here, do college tours, do debates, all this other shit? The fuck do you think this is? Holy fucking incredible, bro. I'm literally going to Penn State tomorrow to do a fucking college debate. And I'm going to stream that on Rumble, you fucking dumbasses, for free. Despite the fact that I don't got a Rumble deal on Myron Gaines X. Dumbasses. Still going to go on fucking Myron Gaines. It's still going to go on Fresh Fit and Myron Gaines X. So shut the fuck up. You don't work for free, so shut the fuck up. Holy fuck, man. Niggas are retarded. Anyway, yeah. We're ending YouTube, ending Rumble. Come over to OSS, which is a part of Rumble, by the way. Dumbass niggas. Or come to Party. Either or.